Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in Torchwood Hub once again, ready to talk more Torchwood as, hey, we're doing Torchwood Month, right? With my wonderful co-host, wonderful friend, and someone who is a constant source of delight from the Fangirls Podcast. Joining us once again, please welcome Holly Mack. How you doing, Holly?
Doing well. Thank you for the warm welcome. Much appreciated.
All right. So Holly's back. We're going to talk more Torchwood. And thank you so much for joining us once again. I'm really looking forward to this.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're always welcome. You're always welcome. And for anyone wondering, unfortunately, Jesse Jackson, my partner in time, is not here once again because sadly he was in the hospital recently, for those who don't know. Thankfully, he's home now. So hooray for that, because being in the hospital sucks, as I can personally attest to. But unfortunately, it seems like he's going to have a surgical procedure done. I won't go into the details. At the moment, he's okay. But they're essentially do some surgery and then try to study this mass that's apparently inside him. And hopefully it'll turn out to be benign, and hopefully everything will be okay. So obviously all of our thoughts, and hopefully Holly will back me up on this. I'm guessing she will.
Yep.
That Jesse will be okay soon, and hopefully things will be, we won't have to go any further than this one procedure. Fingers crossed for Jesse's sake.
Yes.
Because we want him healthy, we want him well, and hey, in a selfish way, we want him back on the podcast, right?
Yes, that too.
We want him talking more Doctor Who and Torchwood with us. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, but thankfully, Holly's, like I said, Holly's here, so you don't have to deal with just my nonsense, which is always great for everybody. And we're going to talk some more Torchwood. So here at episode 228, by special request by Holly, we're going to discuss Something Borrowed.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the 9th episode from Torchwood Series 2 back in 2008, written by Phil Ford, who wrote the Doctor Who stories The Waters of Mars from the David Tennant era, and Into the Dalek, the second episode from the Peter Capaldi era. He also wrote the Doctor Who animated project Dreamland, if you've ever seen that, starring David Tennant. And
yes.
I think Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's I think where they went to like Area 51 or Roswell, if memory serves.
Yeah. It's been a while since I watched those. It's one of those I want to talk about at some point here on Next Stop Everywhere. But we haven't done that yet, so that would be a good excuse to do that, to watch that again. He also wrote the Sarah Jane Adventure episodes, The Last Sontaran, Prisoner of the Jadoon, Mona Lisa's Revenge, and several others, but those are some highlights thought I'd mention. This is directed by Ashley Way, who directed the previous episode that we talked about, I believe, Captain Jack Harkness. And, of course, this once again stars the full Torchwood team of John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness, Eve Myles as Gwen Cooper, Bern Gorman as Owen Harper, Naoko Mori as Toshiko Sato, and Gareth David Lloyd as Yanto Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So, Holly, before we get into anything like guest cast or whatnot, I'm curious about your thoughts about why you selected this one, because I gather it's a personal favorite, as I gather from our last week's discussion.
Yes.
So, but is that the only reason, or is there just because you enjoy this episode so much, or any particular reason why you wanted to talk this one?
I enjoyed this episode so much, besides it being one of my favorites, but we finally get to see a happy ending Rhys and Gwen getting married, and
Right.
it's just like, hey, after all the struggles and that, they're finally getting together. Nothing's gonna stop them, and the family's kind of become more complete because Rhys has actually kind of become an honorary member of Team Torchwood, even though he doesn't quite know it yet.
Yeah, he's kind of like the mascot, isn't he?
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because of his association with Gwen, and obviously they're getting married here, so his relationship with Gwen, he gets involved in a lot of Torchwood adventures, especially in this season.
Yes.
And as a result,
first season she was she was able to keep it kind of quiet, but then things started happening. It's like, yeah, he's got to get brought in.
yeah, he had to, and one of the complications in the story is that, obviously Rhys's family and her family get invited to this wedding, but they don't know about Gwen's activities at Torchwood.
No.
And unfortunately for Gwen, this is a complete typical Torchwood farce of an episode.
Yes.
To put it delicately.
Yes. And
everything that can go wrong does go wrong for Gwen's wedding.
Yeah. And when he gets that call from her, it's just like, what do you mean? I can't, it's not good for the husband to see the wife before the wedding.
Yeah, exactly. You can't see the bride before the wedding, right? But
it's Torchwood.
Right. For Torchwood, it might be the reverse. Maybe seeing the bride before the wedding might actually be a good thing, right?
Right, yeah.
Who knows? But obviously this is the big one, the big episode where, like you said, Gwen and Rhys finally tie the knot. And with the typical Torchwood insanity thrown in for good measure. So it's a very comedic episode. I think it's safe to say, this episode. Yeah. All right. But I enjoyed this one a lot. I had a lot of fun with the rewatch this past weekend. Lori loved it. And,
good.
My wife, Lori. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about, I think. All right. So guest cast, we of course have Kai Owen as Rhys Williams, who, like we've talked about, has been in several Torchwood episodes and obviously he appears in several more after this. So he's kind of almost like a sort of member of the team, especially after Children of Earth, right? Because there's hardly any team left.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of down to like Jack and Gwen at this point. So so Rhys kind of, I think, unofficially joins that team. Mm-hmm. We have Collette Brown, who plays Carrie, a.k.a. the Nostrovite, and who I thought did a really good job. She was very it was pretty impressive. She's a very attractive woman, but she's also very menacing in this in a lot of ways.
Yes, and she does it very well.
Yeah. So it was kind of nice. And then we have Nerys Hughes as Brenda Williams, Rhys's mom. And Doctor Who fans might recognize her, at least classic Who fans, because she played the character Dr. Todd in the Peter Davison era story Kinda back in the day. She also did the voice of Eris for Big Finish Audio from the 8th Doctor range Phobos. And she does reprise Brenda Williams for Torchwood Big Finish Audio Visiting Hours.
Mm-hmm.
We also have Sharon Morgan, who plays Mary Cooper, obviously Gwen's mom. She returns in Torchwood Miracle Day. She's a big player in that one. And she also appears in the Torchwood Big Finish Audio, Aliens and Sex and Chips and Gravy, which is a great title, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have William Thomas as Geraint Cooper. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. But he actually is very interesting because he played Martin the Undertaker in the classic era Doctor Who story Remembrance of the Daleks. He played the character Cleaver in the New Who episode Boomtown from the Christopher Eccleston era. So he's one of the few who's actually appeared in both the classic era and the modern era, one of the few actors that did. Mm-hmm. And he also returned as Gwen's father in Torchwood Miracle Day. So that means he's not just, the classic Who and New Who combination, he's also appeared in Torchwood, making him the only actor to have appeared in all three.
So he got the hat trick.
He got the hat trick, exactly. And so that's his distinction. And, let's see, what else? Oh, and we had Jonathan Lewis Owen, I thought I'd mention, who plays Banana Boat. Who, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only time that we actually see him on Torchwood, right?
Yes.
He gets referred to.
Otherwise...
He gets mentioned in previous episodes. But here we finally see this guy.
Yes, because I'm just like, okay, is Banana Boat just an imaginary friend that Rhys has made up to make cover for some of the idiotic things he's done?
Right.
Nope. He's real.
No, apparently he's real, and yes, as you might imagine, he's Rhys's best man in this during this ceremony. So I thought I'd give him. He had a very funny sequence with Tosh, where they're all bound up in this kind of black spiderweb thing. You know, kind of like cross between Venom from the Spider-Man movies and the
web shooter stuff
and the actual webbing, I guess. I don't know, but so that's all I have as far as the cast. I mentioned William Thomas. Now, other trivia I thought I'd mention is that it was apparently Eve Myles' idea to have Gwen compulsively eat gherkins after waking up pregnant. Kind of like falling back on the whole stereotype of that pregnant women only have cravings for pickles and ice cream. Mm-hmm. That whole stereotype. So the script apparently only specified that Gwen was going to be compulsively drinking water.
Okay.
But apparently she must have thought this would be funnier, and I think she's right.
Yeah.
It's much more memorable, right? Mm-hmm. Just the
and
name.
She's a little more menacing, waving a pickle around too.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a funnier moment. But let's see what else. Gwen also states that she would marry Rhys even if, quote, weevils crawled out of the sewers or, quote, the sky was full of spaceships, which was pretty foreshadowing because weevils do crawl out of the sewers in the story Exit Wounds. And the sky gets full of Dalek spaceships in the Doctor Who story, The Stolen Earth Journey's End, where, of course, Torchwood appears. Mm-hmm. So pretty, obviously, I'm sure that was very intentional by Russell T Davies, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. But especially since since he wrote The Stolen Earth Journey's End.
Right. And maybe Billis gave Gwen a few more glimpses into the future from Exit Wounds when he shows her Rhys dying. Who knows? Maybe it was an off-scene thing.
Could have been. So it's all a little bit wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey here. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other trivia you'd like to share that I missed?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Nope, I think you got it.
All right. So let's dive into our topics today. We've only have 3. But Holly seemed to like my titles for this one. So topic number 1, we're not canceling the wedding. So we're going to talk, of course, the bride herself, Gwen Cooper, the groom himself, Rhys Williams, and Captain Jack as the gatecrasher who shows up telling everybody to stop the wedding at the worst possible moment.
Mm-hmm. And a few of the family members are thinking, also, could Jack be a homewrecker?
Yep, exactly. Which is fair, right? Because we know that, and that's one of the things we should probably talk about is, this kind of weird sort of flirtation between Gwen and Jack up until this point, where you kind of wondered, well, will these two hook up? Mm-hmm. But here it is. Gwen's actually marrying Rhys, and finally this gets put to bed once and for all.
Yep.
So what do you want to talk about first? I mean, we have Gwen, who rather traumatically, goes out for a night of fun, what they call in the UK hen night, which is the UK version, I guess, of the
Bachelorette
the
party.
bachelorette party. Thank you. And so, and then, she wakes up the next morning and suddenly she's preggers. Very, very preggers.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously
Almost
wondering
kind of
how
reminiscent
that
of that
happened.
Angel episode where Cordy goes out to a party and then wakes up
Yes,
pregnant.
that's a good point. And hey, which story
Mm-hmm.
came first? Why, it was the Angel one.
Angel one. Uh-huh.
Yep. Just
Yep.
saying. And we know how much
Yep.
Russell T Davies was a fan of Buffy, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Little
Yep.
sus, perhaps.
Yes.
A little suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you make of Gwen's reaction to waking up pregnant?
She's a bit of a disbelief, and Jax is like, we should probably call this off until we figure out what's inside of you so you don't wind up dead on your wedding day. And she's just like, nope, I don't care. I'm getting married. If I die at the altar, so be it. I'm getting married.
That was one of the things that was just like the very confusing part. Sorry, I'm getting a little echo here. That was one of the really confusing parts because anyone else, I think, that was presented with this situation probably would have said, maybe now's not the best time.
Yeah, exactly.
But Gwen is just consumed. Kind of like almost like when we talked last week with Owen being consumed with the idea of getting back to Diane, his time lost love. So Gwen is kind of the same way here, where to the absence of all reason and sense, she's like, we're plowing ahead with this wedding. We are doing this thing. And well, despite everybody going, how are we going to explain the fact that you're suddenly looking like you're 8 months pregnant? Or,
Right.
And everybody wondering who's the father and what, one of the realizations that Gwen comes to during this episode is she's like, well, we can't say that we lost the baby because my parents and your parents are going to be expecting a grandchild and wanting that, and it's going to destroy them if that does, if we say that. So just Gwen doesn't really think this through, does she?
Oh. And then and the kicker is she decides to tell the truth, and then her father doesn't believe her. He tells Gwen's mom, this wedding has driven your daughter to the extreme. She thinks that baby's an alien.
Right.
It's just like, she's right.
And I'm sure everybody was wondering, well, especially after Jack barges in.
Yes.
Wondering if that baby is actually Jack's, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, because Rhys's mom even says, the problem seems to be an American with no sense of timing or fashion.
Having seen some of the fashions worn to that wedding,
Brenda should be talking.
Yeah, it's a little hypocritical, just a little bit.
Yeah, because even Gwen's mom was just like, yeah, and you make green look so nice, or something to that effect when Brenda comments about Gwen's mother's choice in clothing and how it was a bold movement.
Yeah, pretty much. A bold statement. Yeah, bold statement, yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. So, the Jack ends up, kind of revealing to Gwen's father and mother that hey, we're with Torchwood, and that she's been impregnated by an alien, and they're apparently like in just complete disbelief on that until only the Nostrovite, the alien, reveals its true nature and tries to attack them.
Right. And how at first they mistake Brenda for the Nostrovite.
Yes.
So Jack says a few choice words about Brenda, and then Gwen's like, no.
Yeah.
That I can tell by the perfume. it's Brenda. And then Rhys just goes ahead and slugs Jack one for calling his mom a not so nice name.
It was an ugly bee. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it was funny. It's a very funny moment because, John Barrowman, plays this up. He just starts just coming up insult after insult after insult about Rhys, about the alien, who he thinks,
Right.
well, it's just this horrible, ugly alien. And, then finally, they realize that the alien is elsewhere with, I believe,
Gwen's mom.
Yeah, out there in the courtyard or whatever, and so they realize it's actually Brenda, and and Rhys is just fuming at this point. He just lays into Jack, which later Jack actually respects him for, saying he had a pretty good punch on him. So.
Yeah, and I bet Rhys has been wanting to do that for so long. He finally got his wish.
Yeah, because like I said, it was almost kind of like a will they or won't they with Gwen and Jack. And especially there was a little bit of a complication because, well, hey, Gwen slept with Owen, which I still don't understand.
Yeah, you and me both.
Bad decisions all around there. But but she seemed like she was struggling with Rhys a little bit, and so she obviously, Jack is a very charismatic figure, and she started, I think, crushing on him a little bit. And there was this little flirtation. I don't think Jack actually discouraged it.
No, he wasn't. I mean, he was kind of encouraging it, but then he wouldn't because he had his eyes set on Yanto, but then it kind of went back just from that. Even from the opening of season 2 with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Gwen shows him the ring.
Right.
I'm engaged. I'm off the market, and that kind of took Jack
by surprise.
Like, oh, she actually did do that.
Yeah, maybe he thought because. Here's Jack just flirting with everybody, especially when Captain John Hart was there, right? So, I think maybe you're right that, maybe he thought that Gwen would still be available, perhaps, and he was, because he didn't treat it seriously, that flirtation seriously. Gwen actually came to a decision, and she decided she wanted to continue her relationship with Rhys instead.
And
it's
like she told Jack, Rhys is stable, which means he doesn't run off at a moment's notice and is gone for a year, who knows where.
Well, she wants, some semblance of a normal life. I think in a lot of ways, she's looking for that little bit of a traditional marriage, right? She wants, to have the husband. She wants, maybe some kids. But she also wants that Torchwood career, and obviously making that a little bit more complicated. But she decided to go with Rhys, and I think we're all very glad that she did, right?
Oh yes, very.
Yeah, I think so. But it does make for an interesting moment, and you get a nice little parting moment between Gwen and Jack, and I really thought this was a good place to do it at the wedding reception.
Yes.
Where they kind of danced together. When it was in a very funny moment. I liked it where Jack, cuts in on Rhys to dance with Gwen.
Yep.
And then Yanto cuts in on Gwen to dance with Jack.
Yeah, which is just, it was just like, that was perfect. I'm just like, yep, we can see where this is going.
Yeah. So I like that a lot. But it did kind of put a nice little period on the end of that flirtation. And obviously, it doesn't really get addressed going forward, I don't think.
No.
Which is good. I think it was good because it pushed the show forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that. All right. Let's see what else. Anything else that I'm missing about Gwen or Rhys or Jack? We do need to talk about one thing. I want to talk about when when Gwen and Rhys are kind of quartered in that, I don't know if it was like a barn or a shed or
Yeah.
something, and the Nostrovite is cornering them.
Yeah.
And Rhys tries to hold it off with a chainsaw. He goes all
Yes.
Evil Dead, right?
Yes, as Jack put it, yeah. That Evil Dead looks good on you.
Yeah, all you needed to do was have Rhys go groovy.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Bruce Campbell, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, Rhys was about ready to hold his own with the chainsaw, and then all of a sudden, kablooey! It's like, oh, hi, Jack.
Well, first the chainsaw cuts out.
Right.
And it looks kind of grim after that moment, right? Because here's Rhys ready to go off on the Nostrovite, like, come get some. And then all of a sudden the chainsaw dies on him.
And Rhys says a couple words.
He's kind of like, basically kind of like, oh, bugger. And and then it looks kind of grim for Rhys and Gwen at that moment. But then all of a sudden, like you said, the Nostrovite explodes. And there's Jack with a very quippy line, like, talking about, let's see you, that's what I call a shapeshift or something.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yep.
So I thought that was a good line. So I really liked that moment, but it was nice to see Rhys trying to defend Gwen in that moment.
Yeah. Well, and this is the only time I'm going to give Owen any credit. He's the one who teaches Rhys how to use that laser scalpel.
Yeah.
He's just like, I got 2 bum hands here. You're probably going to want somebody with 2 good hands to do this. He's just like, I could give Jack this and have him do it, or I could teach you. And Rhys is like, okay, show me how it works.
Right. Because obviously Rhys doesn't want Jack anywhere near Gwen, right?
Exactly.
Makes sense. So, yeah, so Rhys does, they destroy the egg that's inside her, the Nostrovite egg.
Yep.
And I really don't know what happened to the egg. I just kind of wonder, did it disintegrate completely inside her, or just, did it just like kill it inside her and they had to take it out afterward?
Who knows?
Who knows, I guess. That's just me being a little too detailed on that one, I guess. Probably didn't need to know that one. All right. But anything else? Because, it was just a very comedic romp. I loved the fact that, we got to see, and we'll talk about the Nostrovite a little bit more later, but I did like that we got to see Jack as the Nostrovite.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, and Gwen just falls for it, hook, line, and sinker. She's just thinking it's old charming Jack.
Yeah.
He come run away with me, and then all of a sudden she looks over her shoulder, and the fingernails are starting to grow.
Right.
It's like, oh dear. Well, and too, this episode's kind of a breath of fresh air because the next couple of ones are pretty intense and heavy. Because the next one's called Out of the Rain, and that one's a real heavy Jack backstory.
Yeah, I think they intentionally placed this because, I think at this point Torchwood needed some lightness, some levity.
Yeah.
And this episode definitely does that in spades, I think.
Yes.
Would have liked to see more episodes like that.
Me too.
With Torchwood Series 2 a little bit. I thought I got just a little too dark, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, anything else about these characters you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of. I mean, just the scene with Gwen trying to tell Rhys, "Hey, this wedding's on. I want to marry you. Don't try to talk me out of this."
Right.
Like you had said earlier, because I mean, she even whaps him with something like, "You idiot!
Yeah.
Are you listening to a word I am saying?"
They're not even married yet, and she's committing spousal abuse, right?
Exactly. Like, I want you. Do you see me going after the guy in the red cape? No.
All right. So let's see. Topic number 2. Then let's move on. want to call the Wedding Fairies. So let's talk about Tosh, Owen, and Yanto, our other Torchwood members, who kind of left on support on this one, obviously, where Tosh is essentially trying to look after Gwen.
Yes,
And
which Gwen really doesn't much appreciate, but she does take the help. But Tosh quickly gets saddled on banana boat duty.
yeah, exactly. So we'll talk about that. Owen, essentially, I guess, tasked with trying to figure out how to get that Nostrovite egg out
Right.
of Gwen.
Well, and to find out what they're dealing with.
Exactly, and trying to figure out why the Nostrovite is apparently hunting Gwen. And then Yanto, poor Yanto, he's essentially stuck with just trying
wedding
to
dress detail.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, he has to go fetch a pregnancy wedding gown, a maternity wedding gown, I should say, for Gwen, and trying to let the shop clerk try to reassure him that the dress is not for him,
right?
Despite what he thinks.
Mm-hmm.
So should we talk about Tosh and Banana Boat first, do you think?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, let's talk about that. So poor Tosh. She gets there essentially, like I said, told to guard Gwen, keep an eye on her. And she ends up getting propositioned by Rhys's best man, Banana Boat.
Yeah.
We don't exactly know Banana Boat's real name, but he tries to say, well, they call me Banana because for obvious reasons. And he points at it like, I think it was his tie or cravat or something that was yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he just really likes yellow. But Tosh makes this really great joke about, and I have it in my quotes, about why she thinks he's called Banana Boat.
Yeah.
And I did like that Tosh had a little chat with Gwen for a little bit. While they're waiting for the, when Tosh, delivers the maternity dress and Gwen is getting ready. They talk about the possibility of Tosh and Owen getting together.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Tosh isn't exactly optimistic about that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because she said, I don't think so. In sickness and in health, till death do us part. That's going to sound like a bad joke, isn't it? Because this is after Owen is brought back and quote unquote is now king of the zombies, king of the weevils.
Yeah, we kind of seen that for whatever inexplicable reason, Tosh kind of crushes on Owen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is about Owen, but apparently, Gwen was attracted to him. Tosh is attracted to him. I don't get it personally, but
No.
Yeah, that's just. But whatever. To each their own. I respect your choices.
Yep, exactly.
But Tosh has been kind of crushing on Owen. Like she initially tries to say, "Hey, you want to come to the wedding with me?" And he's not really into it, I guess. And then she shows up in her dress for the wedding, and he's kind of like a little bit, va-va-voom over it.
Yep.
And the two actually do get a dance later, don't they?
Yes, I believe they do.
Right. So he makes. I think Owen said something about like, come on and let's have a little dance with a dead man or something like that. I can't remember exactly what was said, but
yeah.
But yeah, you kind of feel for Tosh because she's crushing over this guy who's now essentially a zombie and is decaying piece by piece a little bit.
Yeah.
And Owen, meanwhile, like we talked about, Owen kind of does a little autopsy on the first Nostrovite, who were informed early on that was a male Nostrovite that apparently, impregnated Gwen, or you transferred the egg to Gwen during a bite, and he kind of figures out what's going on with the Nostrovite, and then he helps with he tries to when the Nostrovite attacks, he tries to fend off the Nostrovite, emptying like whole clips of bullets into the alien, but it apparently makes it unstoppable. So he comes up with this plan that to remove the egg using the singularity scalpel. And that's essentially his contribution for this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much there with Owen apart from that. And Yento, meanwhile, like I said, had some fun at the wedding shop, trying to get a dress for Gwen. So what did you make of that scene where Yento's trying to get this emergency maternity dress for Gwen?
It was interesting and touching because, you see him posing and doing the to the left, to the right, imagining how it's going to look on her. It's like, okay,
Right.
Good on ya.
Remember, didn't he say in like the Captain Jack Harkness episode that his father was a tailor or something?
Yes. Or was it this episode?
I can't remember. Honestly, they kind of blur together a little bit because we're doing them back to back. But
I think now that you
know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes. Something with his father being able to figure out the inseam.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you remember Jack was all turned on by that idea.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe he kind of saw himself as a little bit of a tailor himself, or someone who knows clothing and can size somebody up. So that's what he was trying to do. And then, of course, he gets spotted by the clerk who, apparently this is, not the first guy that's wanted a wedding dress to wear himself. So he makes this snap judgment about Yento in the process, that he's doing the same thing.
Right.
So, little awkward, I guess. Little awkward moment. But Yento, let's see, what else? Yento doesn't really get to do much either, I don't think, in this one, apart from a little bit of...
I think he DJs a little bit, and then
Yeah, because the DJ gets killed. You're right, because the DJ gets killed, so Yento does have to kind of step up a little bit, especially during the reception. And then essentially he gets put on cleanup detail.
Yes, at the end.
Which he refers to as, notes the irony of fighting aliens by day and being wedding fairies by night.
By night, yes.
So that's where I got that title from.
Yes, there's a lot of good lines in this episode.
Right. So it was kind of nice, at least, before they destroyed the team, practically. It was nice. It was nice that they got to be there for Gwen's wedding.
Exactly.
One last moment of happiness before we just completely kill off two members, and then in the next season kill off a third member of the team.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
disassembling the family unit, not fun.
Kind of a downer, Russell T Davies. Just saying, a little bit. Maybe that's why Torchwood only lasted 4 series, I guess.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Right. So, anything else about Tasha, Owen, or Yento that I missed? That we missed, I should say.
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So, topic number 3, we'll move on to our final topic. We're just breezing right through these. Topic number 3 is something I call some mother instinct, which is, I believe, a line from Owen.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Nostrovite itself. We kind of, talked about it a little bit here and there, but this creature, we're first introduced, like I said, to a male Nostrovite. So this is, the kind of the prelude to the episode where she's late for going out for her hen night and sent to go off, after this alien with a carnivorous appetite.
Mm-hmm.
And while the creature gets wounded, its black blood tells the team that it's a shapeshifter and presumably can assume any form. So Gwen follows the trail of blood, calls in Jack as a backup, and then suddenly the Nostrovite attacks, the male Nostrovite attacks her, bites her on the arm, and she tries to get it, fends it off, and then Jack, I believe, shot it dead, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're kind of looking at this bite wound, and Gwen's all, of course, going, "It's nothing. It's just a scratch, whatever, no big deal." So she goes off. She's just like, "Look, I want to go to my bachelorette party." So she does that, goes out to apparently a strip club, and she gets some teasing from her friends and whatnot. And then we wake up in the next morning, like we talked about, that she was pregnant. And as we find out from Owen, because he does this autopsy on the male Nostrovite, apparently, they identify the alien, and apparently the Nostrovite is a carnivorous shapeshifter that mates for life and hunts in pairs. And apparently, after fertilization, the female transfers eggs to the male, who then transfers them to a host to incubate until the offspring is mature. So essentially, Gwen becomes an incubator.
Uh-huh.
And then the female is supposed to kill the host after that point, releasing its newborn.
Uh-huh.
And then the mate of so this is where Owen realizes that the female Nostrovite is going to be hunting Gwen.
Uh-huh. And you think, because she makes that one comment when she's with her girlfriends in the ladies' room area of the club, that she's feeling hot. It's just like, okay, that sounds like sort of infection. If I were Gwen, I'd be hightailing it back to the hub, saying, "I'm feeling a little off. Check me over."
But to be fair, by this time, she was drinking pretty heavily. And
True.
She's surrounded by, male strippers.
True.
So maybe she thought she was just turned on by that.
That could be, yeah.
So she just kind of wrote it off, and which of course is why, being Torchwood, she wakes up the next morning 8 months preggers or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so the Nostrovite we talked about infiltrates the wedding as this woman named Carrie, who presumably Gwen knows. And the Nostrovite murders the DJ, eating most of him.
Yep.
Until, of all people, Tosh and Banana Boat stumble across what's going on.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
And I had to chuckle, because Banana Boat comes up to Karen, if memory serves.
Yeah.
And tries to hit on her, and Karen's just like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Well, she wasn't, the person incubating the egg, so.
Yeah, true.
But she apparently, you think she'd be she decided she wanted a snack, right? But maybe she wasn't hungry at that point.
That could be.
I don't know how it works, but
yeah.
So Carrie ends up imprisoning Tosh and Banana Boat in this kind of webbing thing. And that at that point, that's when another bridesmaid named Megan enters the room and, of course, screams to all high heaven, freaking out about this. So Jack, Jack and Ianto are immediately realize, this is going to expose Torchwood. So they have to try to put a lid on this
and jam all the telephone signals, because Jack beforehand says, "We need to be quiet. We need to shut this down." And then 3 minutes later,
right?
Great.
Yeah, great, right? So So the Nostrovite apparently, we talked about how it tried to attack Jack and Gwen, and then jumped out the window under a hail of bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Tosh and Jack chased the Nostrovite, but lost its trail, and figured, Tosh figures, it's going to be back because it still wants Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
So they try to essentially hang around Gwen, trying to protect her, but also waiting for the Nostrovite. And this is where we get that little, funny confusion where Jack confuses Rhys's mom, Brenda, for the Nostrovite,
Mm-hmm.
which we talked about, calling her an ugly bee. And I love that, just love the fact that Gwen concludes that, this is the real Brenda because of her horrible perfume.
Perfume. Yeah.
Right. So you notice Rhys didn't say anything about that to Gwen.
No.
Yeah. Probably not the right time, but yeah.
No.
Maybe agree with her, perhaps.
Yeah. And just the cattiness between the in-laws behind the back, it's just like, this is going to be an interesting Thanksgiving get-together. The utensils might need to all be plastic.
Yeah, probably. It's going to make this cutting the steak tough, though.
Yes.
No, seriously, if you try to ever cut a steak with a plastic knife, it's not happening.
That or a butter knife.
Yeah,
not
that too.
Yeah.
That too.
Not easy.
So the Nostrovite ends up, we talked about being the real ones outside with Gwen's mom, and takes her hostage once they confront her. So the Nostrovite demands her child in exchange for Mary. Gwen, and this is where Gwen has her kind of a big badass moment for Gwen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Walks toward the Nostrovite and try to get as close as possible, carrying her bouquet noticeably.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then when she gets close enough, she unloads by firing her gun, which is hidden inside the bouquet, several times.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And causing it to flee. Didn't kill it, but at least caused it to let Mary go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was a pretty cool moment, right?
Yeah. And then Owen's comment, that's the kind of daughter every mother must dream of. Cool as ice and packing an automatic.
Exactly.
Because the first time I saw it, I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm just like, I like it. I can see this.
Yeah, Gwen, you're my dream girl. So, and then of course, they have that big showdown in the shed that we talked about later on, where Jack finally takes out the Nostrovite with the help of this rather, for lack of a better term, just bigger gun that they assembled from the SUV's boot.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's it for the Nostrovite, and they took care of the egg inside Gwen, and the threat is neutralized once and for all. So, but what did you make of that Nostrovite? I thought it was a pretty interesting villain, interesting alien.
Yeah,
and it was a great moment because you got to see the actress who plays Brenda. That she got to be this kind of alien monster. And then we got to see Collette Brown as Carrie, as the monster. And then also, like I said, a very funny moment, John Barrowman, who had to be enjoying himself immensely, right?
Oh, yeah. I just can imagine the deleted scenes, outtakes with him and the Nostrovite makeup.
Right, exactly. He's probably trying to bite everybody in the cast off camera, right? Having
way too much fun.
He had to. I mean, I've seen Barrowman a couple times in person. I could totally see him just getting into the whole spirit of the thing and just really playing it up for fun.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we need to get those outtakes.
Yes, we do.
All right. So anything else about this episode? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't mind some anniversary edition re-releases. There's something that I forgot that's very brief at the end, but at the end of the episode, after
Oh, with
Rhys
Jack.
and
With Jack, yeah.
with Jack, he's in the hub looking through some stuff in his office, and he opens up this box, and we come across this old faded photo of
Mm-hmm.
him and a woman, and probably from a wedding. And it's just like, we don't have much information as to who this woman is, because there hasn't been anything
No.
yet that I'm aware
That
of.
was actually going to be one of my
finished
questions.
audios.
That was going to be one of my questions to you, because I know you've listened to the audios. So there's still nothing about her in those.
No, because the only thing that we know of is of his daughter's mother from
Oh, yeah, from Children of Earth, yeah.
the Children of Earth. That's it, but nothing about this woman.
Well, presumably that has to be her, right?
Well, possibly. That was a pretty old photo. I'm not sure if that's from because that one looked like the early 1920s, 1930s,
That's true.
and not 60s, 70s. If timeline is
That's true.
right with age.
I wonder if Jack went off and got married after, meeting Captain Jack Harkness the first time.
That could be. That could be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a story there. We need to tell it. Tell it.
Yes.
If anybody has any details about Jack's mysterious wife that we don't know of, drop us a line, because I'm kind of curious if it's out there or not. All right. Well, this is a great episode. So let's talk some favorite quotes. I know you kind of rattled off a bunch already.
Yeah.
So do you have any others you want to talk about?
Yes. Let's see. Where did it go? Oh, yes. Jack. What is it with you? Ever since Owen died, all you do is agree with him. Yanto. I was brought up never to speak ill of the dead, even if they still do most of the talking for themselves. No love lost there. Yes.
That's a good one. Let's see. I liked Rhys Williams with Gwen Cooper saying where Rhys goes, "You all right?" And Gwen replies, "I'm running around with a wedding dress with what feels like a keg of lager stuck up my skirt. What do you think, Rhys?"
Yes, that was one of my other ones too.
You freaking moron. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I love that one. Do you have any other quotes?
Let's see. Banana. So this is to Tosh. So do you fancy a drink later? I'm sorry. I'm intolerant to vasoactive amines. Huh? Bananas make me vomit. I just,
good.
A nice way to tell him she's not interested.
Right. Well, it's probably a pretty confusing way apparently, since he didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I'll also give my Tasha Banana quotes. Tosh says, "I'm a friend of Gwen's." And Banana Boat says, "I'm Banana." It points to his loud cravat, right? "Suppose you can tell why." And Tosh replies, "You come up in spots and go soft quickly." Burn!
Yeah. I think it went right over his head,
Destroyed.
too, that
Yeah.
he did not get it.
It's always the quiet ones like Tosh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That was good. Let's see. Gwen Cooper with Captain Jack Harkness, where she says, "What will you do while I'm gone?" And Jack replies, "Oh, the usual. Pizza, Yanto, save the world a couple times."
Yeah, I love how he slips the Yanto in, and Gwen's like, yeah.
Right.
Not surprised.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And then I remember you had mentioned earlier about Owen complimenting Tosh on her outfit.
Yeah.
Tosh, do you like it? Drop dead gorgeous, Tosh. And I think I speak with some authority.
Yeah, that was good, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was good. All right. And lastly, I'm going to say leave it to Yanto for the final word on this one. That's what I love about Torchwood. By day, chasing the scum of the universe. Come midnight, you're the wedding fairy.
Yes. And I just forgot the thing that kind of goes back with Rhys and Gwen, because Jack does level 6 retcon on pretty much the whole wedding party. So they'll wake up with a hangover, and then he gives the two champagne flutes. It's like, maybe the happy couple as well. And she's just like, nope, there's not going to be any secrets in this marriage. So that was nice to see. Charles, I couldn't hear you. For some reason, you're okay. Muted.
Any other quotes? Any other quotes that you want to hear or you want to give?
I think we got them.
Okay, all right.
Unless you've got a couple more.
Nope, that's it. I think that's. There's a lot of great quotes in this one. Yeah, Phil Ford did a great job with the script, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
All right, so what's your rating for this one?
10 out of 10 singularity scalpels.
Very nice, very nice. I'm not as high on this one as you are, but I did really enjoy it. So I'm going to give this one 8.5 out of 10 wedding bouquets with guns hidden inside.
Nice.
All right. So the question now, if you watch this episode and you want to, like, say, a Doctor Who episode of a similar vein, I'm guessing you probably have a suggestion, don't you? Because I do.
Would it happen to be The Runaway Bride?
It would indeed be The Runaway Bride. Ding, ding, ding. You get
nice.
Yep. Circle gets the square. All right. So we're going to reverse the polarity. Excuse me. All the way back to 2006 for The Runaway Bride, the 2006 Christmas special, written by Russell T. Davies. And in this one, of course, the 10th Doctor is shocked when Donna Noble, get used to that name, guys, in a wedding dress suddenly appears within the TARDIS while in flight. She angrily demands to be returned to her wedding on Earth, but the TARDIS materializes far away from the ceremony. Donna leaves in a huff and takes a cab, but the Doctor observes a robotic Santa Claus driving the cab. You know, like you do, right? Mm-hmm. And realizes she's being abducted. He uses the TARDIS to rescue Donna from the cab and escorts her to her wedding, where the Doctor examines the video footage of the ceremony to see how Donna originally disappeared in the first place, and determines that she absorbed a large amount of Huon particles that drew her to the TARDIS. And after learning that Donna and Lance work for the Torchwood Institute, so there's a Torchwood connection here, the Doctor finds a long tunnel under the Thames barrier and a secret lab producing Huon particles, along with a pit that leads to the center of the Earth. Because, of course, right? Their presence is noted by the Empress of the Arachnos, a spider-like species wiped out aeons ago. The Empress used the Torchwood Institute to make Huon particles, and Lance, who has been working for her, has been feeding the particles to Donna. Donna and the Doctor escape, so the Empress uses Lance as a substitute, force-feeding him Huon particles and then throwing him into the pit. Sucks to be you, buddy. The Doctor and Donna travel back billions of years and discover an inert Arachnos ship became the core of the Earth as the planet formed around it. And this is another big connection here where the Doctor also realizes that the Empress needs Huon particles to awaken her children. So that's another similarity to this story, I think, because you've got an alien that's trying to get their progeny born. Now, if that happens, the Arachnos will eat everything and everyone on Earth, and they'll likely destroy the planet to free their ship. Returning to 2006, the Doctor and Donna try to stop the Empress, but are too late, as other Arachnos start emerging from the pit. The Empress brings her ship into orbit around the Earth, firing upon the populace. The Doctor attempts to offer a peaceful solution, but the Empress refuses, and the Doctor is forced to remotely detonate explosive devices used by the Santas at the wall of the base, flooding the tunnel with water from the Thames and washing the Rachnos back into the pit, kind of like a toilet bowl when you flush it.
Mm-hmm.
The Empress teleports to her ship to try to escape, but the ship is destroyed by human forces acting on behalf of Mr. Saxon.
Uh-huh.
We all know how that turned out, don't we?
Yes, and nice little callback, too, to Captain Jack Harkness.
Right.
With the Saxon posters.
With the Saxon posters, yeah, exactly. The Doctor returns home, or Donna home, and offers her the opportunity to travel with him. She declines for now, but suggests he needs a companion to keep his temperament in check. And that's a nice little bit of foreshadowing to David Tennant's final season, especially The Waters of Mars, which was also, like I said, written by Phil Ford, who wrote this episode of Something Borrowed.
There was little touches of Time Lord Victorious in there, but not to the Waters of Mars level.
No, this is the kind of foreshadowing because, remember, this is still a little bit early in David Tennant's era. So just that first little hint of darkness.
Because it was end of season 2, beginning of season 3, right before Martha comes into the picture.
Exactly. So, yeah, this is right between series 2 and 3. You're right. Exactly. Okay, listener feedback. We do have some feedback this time. Holly, of course, cannot do that because, well, she's here talking with me, which I obviously prefer because I love talking with Holly. And so hopefully Holly enjoys talking with me.
Yes, I do. Of course I do.
All right, I appreciate that. I just want to make sure. And so, but thankfully we have Dave Proctor writing in, everybody, about Something Borrowed. So Dave writes in. Hi, Dave, by the way.
Hey, Dave.
I hope this email finds the TARDIS passengers well this week. Y'all got me worried. Well, you only need to worry about one of us at the moment. So, I enjoyed this episode of Torchwood quite a lot. The pursuit of a normal life is a rare feature in most of my fantasy TV world. I guess Superman and Lois are giving it a try. Thanks again, Fandom Zone Podcast. Well, since Nick isn't here, I'll say you're welcome. Yeah. Welcome, Dave. I recently watched the episode of Star Trek Enterprise where Trip accidentally gets impregnated by the alien, and I couldn't help but smile at the parallels. It also reminded me of the American Pie sequel, American Wedding, a joyful comedy romp. I never saw that movie.
I haven't either.
I give this one an 8. Where did this bridal bouquet come from, and how much did I drink? Hangovers. That's a good one. I like that one. Well played, Dave. Keep up the good work and look around the TARDIS for some vitamin C. Looking forward to talking to you fellas in a couple weeks, so please feel better. Thank you, David K. Proctor. Well, thank you, Dave. And it's a great reminder that we finally get you back on the schedule. So stay tuned, everybody, for that. But I won't tease that. I'll tease that, but I'm not going to talk too much about that just yet. Stay tuned.
Sounds good.
And they're going to be in the very near future.
Yay.
So if you want to be like Dave, please do. Write to us at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at nextstopsmg on Twitter. Facebook, of course, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Or Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere podcast. And Holly, I'm guessing they can find you on the Favish Fangirls. But why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about what you're up to and where they can also find you on the interwebs.
All right. Well, you can find the Five-ish Fangirls on Facebook and at our website, the5ishfangirls.com. You can find me personally at HollyMac_79 on Instagram and Twitter. And not to tip the hand, but I think this coming Monday we might be doing our review of a certain Marvel TV show.
Ooh.
Yes.
You mean like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, perhaps?
Perhaps.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
So we need to do like a Phantom Zone crossover episode.
Yes.
All right, yeah.
That
For those
would be
for
cool.
those who don't listen, know Holly has been writing into the Phantom Zone. So,
Mhm.
and we really appreciate that you do that. So if you enjoy what she writes in there, and you enjoy the Falcon and Winter Soldier, I definitely recommend you guys check out the Fangirls podcast, because now I want to listen to that episode, like right this minute. So we need to make that
And
happen right now. I'm impatient. I want this to happen
well,
right now.
it's not Friday yet. I don't
I
have
know.
access to a blue police box to jump us into the future. I wish we did.
We can't go timey-wimey on this one because I'm eager. I'm
Me too.
anticipating this too much. All right.
Me too.
All right. Well, we'll just have to wait, but I hate waiting. All right.
I know.
All right. But it'll be worth the wait, I'm sure. All
Yes.
right. All right. So as for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Facebook, and at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, and my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. Where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere. So Doctor Who, Torchwood, the Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish Audios, and more. And also a bunch of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcast for the Southgate Media Group, including, well, that Phantom Zone podcast, where, like I said, we're also talking to Falcon and Winter Soldier. Probably not as good as the Fangirls podcast, but we try. Where DJ Nick and I, we're talking that series, and then probably after that, we're probably going to discuss Jupiter's Legacy, which is an upcoming Netflix series based on an Image comic book series by Mark Millar and Frank Quitely, which is about a generational, it's almost like a generational superhero saga.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so it's probably going to go under, a lot of people's radar. So I thought I'd mention it now. Okay. So if you're curious, it's like I said, it's based on an Image comic series. It's called Jupiter's Legacy, and it's going to be on Netflix. And I think you guys might enjoy it. I've seen the trailer. You can watch the trailer now for it.
Okay.
The series comes out, I believe, May 7th, 2021.
Okay. All right.
So a little heads up there. Otherwise,
calendar.
Yep. So check it out, and hopefully it's good, and hopefully we can all enjoy it, talking about it on the Phantom Zone. Let's see what else. Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, whom you've heard here at Next Stop Everywhere, where we talk all things Twin Peaks and David Lynch. And coming up, we're going to be recording tomorrow our first episode of a 3-part series where we're going to be discussing Hotel Room, which is a barely remembered HBO miniseries that aired in 1993, where it was 3 episodes, and the first and the third episodes were directed by David Lynch, and starring a number of Twin Peaks veterans or David Lynch veterans, and also some actors he hasn't worked with before, like Mariska Hargitay from Law & Order Special Victims Unit, or Crispin Glover. So if you thought that you look at an actor like Crispin Glover and go, that's a guy who should work with David Lynch, now's your chance. And we're going to be talking about that for the next few episodes. So I hope everybody tunes in for that. And then last but certainly not least, Drunk Cinema, where Zan and I, this is our side gig, as you know, where we have adult beverages, we have an adult conversation, and we sit back and enjoy our favorite movies together. Recently, Zan asked me to watch with her the 1950s sci-fi classic Forbidden Planet, which I hadn't seen before. And so now I'm going to flip the script on her, give her a movie she hasn't watched before. So we're going to be discussing Kung Pao Enter the Fist, which was a 2002 martial arts comedy that was done by Steve Odenkirk and is something that it's kind of like a martial arts parody, sort of, where they take an old martial arts movie, kind of come up with a new plot, rework some of the dialogue, and generally make fun of it. So it's almost kind of like if Mystery Science Theater 3000 and the movie Airplane had a baby. That's how I kind of describe this movie. So if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. DJ Nick told me that he decided to check out the movie after hearing us talk about it, that we were going to do it, and he loved it. So,
Oh, cool.
so Nick, it gets at least DJ Nick's recommendation. So if you're curious, Kung Pao Enter the Fist. Highly recommend to check it out. And then come and watch it with us on Drunk Cinema. I'm sure Zane would appreciate it. I know I would as well. So that's everything I've got going on and what Holly has going on. So, Holly, I want to thank you again for joining us here on Next Stop Everywhere. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're always welcome, and thank you for helping me out since obviously Jesse's not here once again. We're obviously keeping Jesse in our thoughts.
Yes.
We want you back on the podcast soon, my brother. So
Yes.
Everybody send all the positive vibes Jesse's way, and hopefully we can get him through this procedure, and hopefully everything will be smooth sailing from that point on. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
All right. But Jesse, hopefully you're listening, and just know that we all care about you, and we want you healthy soon.
Yes.
All right. So, Holly, thanks again. Everybody else,
You're very welcome.
next time on Next Stop Everywhere, episode 229. Well, this will be a kind of a first for our Torchwood months. As for 229, we're going to discuss The New World, which was the first episode from Series 4 of Torchwood, a.k.a. Torchwood Miracle Day.
Mm-hmm.
And joining us for that one is at least going to be Christine Peruski, who hasn't been on the podcast for a while, but, obviously when talked about talking some Torchwood episodes, this is one that Christine suggested that she'd like to talk about. And, I'm right there with her because I think this would be a very interesting episode to talk about.
Yes.
So it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully, schedule permitting, maybe we can talk Holly Mack into joining us for that one as well as we wrap up Torchwood Month.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Permitting. Yes.
So at the very least, it'll be yours truly and Christine, but hopefully Holly will be joining us. And that'll be nice because it'll be nice to have a couple of Torchwood fans talking Torchwood here with me. And other than that, I think that's about it. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. Holly, thanks again. And everybody coming back, like I said, episode 229, we're talking The New World from Torchwood Miracle Day with Christine Peruski, yours truly, and fingers crossed, Holly Mack, right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.